complex problem that requires so many people to work together to solve. And at Flock, it's our mission to eliminate it.
A former Milwaukee police officer pled guilty to using the Flock camera system. Police say he used it to track a romantic partner and friend.
Always a romantic partner. The police are using their system all the time.
Just people wanting to make a lot of money.
Construction companies, that's a new one. They're surveilling Flock right now.
Sir, you're under surveillance.
What are you doing running around in the street?
None of your business except for I'm surveilling you right now. Are you with Flock?
No, there's a construction firm I work with, CSV.
99% match.
They're trying to either gain access to the site and we don't want them on site, and I don't know if they're armed or not.
Hello folks, I'm Boots on the Ground journalist Tommy G, and this is a Flock camera. And you may have noticed cameras like this popping up around your city.
Hi, I'm Ben Jordan, a researcher and journalist. As of today, Flock Safety has installed over 100,000 cameras all over America, so chances are that Flock is in your city even if you don't know it. And today, we are teaming up to investigate Flock Safety.
That's right, today we're gonna spy on Flock employees to see how they like being under surveillance.
If you go to Google or Flock's own website, the address of their corporate headquarters will lead you to an empty building. The actual address is kept private.
And today we even reveal their secret drone operation, and we get boxed in by police.
We're going to cover the biggest red flags to be aware of when it comes to Flock and arm you with the information you need to know about the surveillance takeover coming to a city near you.
In this episode, we'll cover the arguments for Flock,
and also the many arguments against Flock.
Imagine catching a heart attack 2 weeks before it happens.
Folks, we're here in Atlanta, Georgia on a surveillance mission. We are headed to Flock Safety, the headquarters. You probably have seen cameras from Flock in your city. And how are they getting there? Well, from city council approval. And I want to know what the will of the people is. Do they want Flock in their city? Because I do agree this is a complex issue with good points on either side. What is the slippery slope of what we're willing to allow under the selling point of safety, which is of course how they always make things more tight and tyrannical. So we're gonna infiltrate, find our way in. I'll see you guys on the ground. So what we're finding here is it appears to be a nondescript building, which I think is kind of funny. We surveil people, but we also want our own privacy. Kind of a contradiction in my book, but. So we're gonna throw a drone up, do our own little reconnaissance, and then we'll move in on the target and get some license plates.
We started off with a simple mission: surveil Flock employees to understand this company's attitude towards being watched. We were also going to film Flock employee license plates so I could bring this footage to Ben, run it through an algorithm, and understand how invasive this data gathering can be. But what we found is this multi-billion-dollar company was not so easy to find.
Miguel had a good point, which was, like, if your son got kidnapped, like, wouldn't you want Flock cameras around so that you could track that car very quickly? And the answer is yes. Where a lot of people get nervous is when you see places like China with a social credit score, and you know they want to bring
ICE
that
is
to
buying
America.
tons of data
It's
from them.
the scope creep of where safety and security
Wildness
lead to. So there's just a lot of implications of once you allow these cameras, because on surface level it's like, yeah, put the Flock cameras where all the shooters are and let's clean up our cities. But where do you draw the line? And you know that the people in power never want that line to be in our favor.
To cover how Flock cameras have the potential to be abused, I have to look no further than my city of Milwaukee, where police officer Josue Ayala obsessively used Flock 180 times over a 2-month span to stalk his ex-girlfriend. And in McHenry County, Illinois, where I grew up, the same story played out where a police chief used Flock to creep on 3 separate exes and was later charged with multiple felonies. And there are countless stories like this.
For example, earlier this year in Florida, a sheriff who was working a side security job for a film set started hitting on an actress and repeatedly approached her even after she told him that she had a boyfriend. Other extras on the set noticed this and intervened, so he used the police database to find her vehicle's information and added it to the hot list so he would be notified every single time that she passed a Flock camera. He then followed her for miles and then pulled her over, telling her that he had hoped her boyfriend was with her so he could give him a hard time. He then allegedly used the police department's investigative tools to find her on Instagram and continue stalking her there.
Folks, this makes me think of the famous Kanye West line. And let's be real, this is not a police problem. To me, this is just people not being able to handle this level of power problem.
It's easy to say all cops are bastards when you hear stories like this, but let's be honest. Could you be trusted with this power? Think of a time in your life when you maybe thought that you were being cheated on by your partner. Do you think you'd be strong enough to resist being able to confirm if it were true? There's a very good reason that the Fourth Amendment exists, and there's a reason that up until these cameras started popping up everywhere, a cop needed to explain to an elected judge why they needed a warrant to give them the power to track someone.
So it appears no company logo on their building?
No.
No branding?
No branding.
It seems like they're trying to be relatively incognito and private, which I also enjoy that. We were initially trying to just get their employees' license plates on camera. I was almost picturing a corporate headquarters you drive in, big parking lot. But because it's going to be a mixture, I guess we just have to surveil everyone for safety, which is, I mean, it's just for safety, guys. We put in Flock interview requests, and we'd love to talk to their people. Garrett, we want to talk to you. We think you have some good points, and we want to hear how you navigate some of these privacy concerns. We've already seen some examples of this technology going wrong. There's cases of wrongful police encounters and arrests.
The first thing you'll see when you go to Flock's website is the words clear evidence and safer communities. But let's talk about times where the evidence wasn't clear and it didn't make people safe. Look no further than California, where a man spent almost a month in jail after he was mistakenly tied to a carjacking even though he was 5 miles away. Or this man in the Carolinas who was held at gunpoint after an incorrect Flock hit falsely labeled his car stolen.
That's
or
happened a
this
lot.
woman who at her own house, police harassed and accused of being a thief even though she was innocent. And the list goes on. Folks, this is something you're going to pay for on both sides.
There was a lady who was arrested
You'll
she
pay
was
on
in a
the front
different
end when your
state
city council votes
during the
against your
crime,
wishes to
because
install
Flock
these
said
cameras
she
all
did the
over your
crime,
city.
like,
And you'll pay for it on the back end when
so
officers are
unhinged.
using clear evidence to brutalize somebody, and you, the taxpayer, for some reason has to pay a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, not the police. And so it seems to me this is a very expensive problem that almost none of us want.
It's not like we get together and vote and say, we want this, we own this decision, we feel good about it. It's a few members of city council that approve it and put it in, just like the data centers. And it's like, we'll see what the numbers are. I just put out a poll on my YouTube page. Let's see what the poll is. So just 27 minutes in, we have 1,100 votes, 94% no. And don't forget, vice presidents of such companies were caught logging the live feeds of girls' preschools and gymnastics classes for hours. We have to look into that.
Flock's website claims that nobody from Flock Safety is accessing or monitoring your footage. However, through open records requests, I found out that they looked at our cameras over 1,000 times.
This is Jason, a concerned dad and whistleblower out of Dunwoody, Georgia, who exposed a story about an alleged Flock sales demo that apparently involved Flock employees and police monitoring children playing within a Jewish community center.
This includes a Flock vice president looking at a private third-party security camera in the little girl's gymnastics room at my son's daycare. Flock claims that this was for a sales demo agreement that my city says doesn't exist, and the people who did those camera viewings are now deleted permanently from the Flock system with no record of it happening.
So you get back here, Benny boy.
Folks, that's right. People could be watching your kids play, and you as a taxpayer have to foot a ridiculous bill to know.
So
shouldn't that be the most transparent thing ever, especially if we are paying for it?
Flock's argument to that is, oh, they were showing off the camera as a demonstration for another client. It's like if I owned a company and I wanted to hire a surveillance camera company to install cameras around, and they said, all right, check this out. And they open up their laptop and then they log in to view children in a gymnastics center. Like, I would either shoot them or call the police. I'm not sure what I would do, but I would have a very, very visceral reaction to it because it's f***ed up.
They're not even listed in the offices. Not listed in the specialty. Okay, so let's just try and see if we can get in and find our way in.
Put your best foot forward and dazzle the universe.
That's what I'm talking about. Fresh, never frozen beef, juicy chicken, pepper jack cheese, and that creamy jalapeno sauce just seals the deal. Turn up the heat with Culver's new jalapeno jack pub burger and chicken sandwich.
How's it going?
Morning, how are you? Good. I'm looking for some help. I'm trying to find the Flock Safety
Fort Wayne
office
actually
for
got
an
a ton
interview.
more Flock cameras recently.
In Flock Safety?
Their cameras they put up on the road that
They
track
moved out?
everyone's cars and license plate. Track where everyone's going.
Okay.
It is very
How long ago did they move?
There was literally, they were investigating them. And there was From the corporate office of Flock, they were accessing
So it's totally empty
internal
right now.
cameras at a children's ballerina.
But the security guard can direct you. I mean,
like
if you
class.
have an interview with someone, I'm sure he's aware of it.
Okay. They take security very seriously. Let me call Ben Jordan.
Hello?
Hey, so we're downtown, and apparently they just moved out of their location, and they're heading to they're moving their office to a place in Buckhead.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
Do you know how to track down that address?
No, that's the
I'd
first
say
I'm hearing of it. I mean,
you've got
I'll
good
do some
shoes
searching
here.
around, but I assume you're doing the same.
We got a
Yeah,
little
I
bit of
assume there would be like a
traffic
news story
too.
about it or something, just because it's a pretty big.
So it must have just
company,
happened.
but-
Let's see, because they have their empty shell of an office, and property management is helping us out a little bit. So we're just to say that we have an interview here. Oh, let's see what they say.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey there, we got an interview here. I know they just moved.
For Flock?
Mm-hmm.
Who you have an interview with?
We're the news.
You know, I said who you have
Oh,
an interview with?
Garrett, ideally, but if there's another representative.
You said Garrett? Garrett, the CEO? Or?
Mm-hmm.
You come on.
Yeah, we're trying to get an interview today. Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
there's nobody
I
here.
some snacks. And I'm very hungry.
Dang, so they sent us to the wrong spot. How long ago did they move?
We're out of fries, but we still got tater tots.
Yeah, but we don't have anything, so we'll see you guys.
So did y'all talk to anybody to come here today, or y'all just came on?
We just came impromptu, just like the cameras are springing up impromptu around the country, so we just wanted to ask about that.
Oh, okay, yeah, nobody's here.
Okay, where's the spot in Buckhead?
We can't get that out.
What is that, like for security reasons? Oh, so they care about security a lot, like their own privacy? Can we put a camera up by your house and your house? What, wait, you guys care about security here? Yeah, we also care about our privacy too, so. We'll see you guys at the next location, okay?
That's the security guard right there.
I had some.
That's the same guy?
Yeah, that's the security guard 100%.
Hey sir, we're surveilling you, is that okay? Do you consent to being surveilled? We're just filming you right now. Do you consent to us surveilling you with our cameras? Oh, well, we're doing it for safety. Oh no, he's getting our license plate. What are we gonna do? Sir, we're not having that. You filmed us, we're filming you double now. Oh yeah. Get him, film him, surveil him.
I almost feel like that guy knows he's one of the bad guys.
Can you send my regards to Garrett, please? Sir, are you calling the cops?
Yeah.
He's calling the cops on us. I don't feel safe either. We should call our cops too. Sir, do you feel in danger right now? Why are you calling the cops? You gotta tighten up, man.
So I pulled the records. Piedmont Reality Trust bought a building for, essentially did the business of buying a building for Flock, a 35,000 square foot lease at the Medici, 3284 Northside Parkway.
Okay, we're perfect. We're 11 minutes from there. Are you guys nervous at all?
Yeah, they definitely know we're coming.
So let's scope it. Is this also mixed use residential?
Yeah, these are all residential right here.
Okay, so what do we got here?
It looks like they've got mostly privacy windows.
If you want to make your voice heard, you can visit people in person. And obviously, we advise you do that peacefully, respectfully, politely.
We are about to review Flock's secret new headquarters that they quietly moved to, but first give me 60 seconds to tell you about the sponsor that helps make today's video possible.
Today's video covers privacy, and you should know not only are you probably getting tracked as you drive, and it's almost certain that your personal information has been leaked on the internet.
You see, scamming, fraud, and identity theft is at an all-time high, and much of that is because of 5 big-time data breaches that happened in the last couple years.
And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Incogni. I have been using Incogni for over a year. I link in the pin % off.
Looking into real estate records, we found that Flock appears to have secretly relocated their headquarters to this building right here.
We the people, our voice has just not been heard, it feels like. This pressure adds up and we need to use it. Again, we are the ants and the ants can win against the grasshoppers if we team up properly. They've been here for about 3 weeks now and I don't see Flock anywhere. It seems they're looking for some privacy. Good morning. How are you? Oh, we're just here for a meeting we're going up to. Beautiful building. For an interview at the Flock headquarters? Okay, that's okay. What?
The floor's a lockdown, period. And sorry, is that rolling right now? You need to cut that off. No,
Film?
can you get that out of my face, please?
We're just going up for an interview to the Flock building.
No, sir. can't do anything like that. You don't have point of contact or anything like that? No, sir.
You're telling me the flock people told you to say no? Because they didn't say no to us.
That camera is catching it. Would you mind turning it off? I'm going to ask you to go, please. Can you please leave the building?
We have something.
Can you please leave the building?
Seems like privacy is a top priority here, huh?
Please leave the building. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Well, Flock's new office is here in this building. They don't want people to know that. And obviously they have their guys at the front keeping this out. He's doing his job. I get it. So far on Instagram, 8,000 votes, 91% no from 1 hour ago. So far on YouTube, 1 hour ago, 3,500 votes, 93% no. I wouldn't even want flock cameras installed in my arch nemesis neighborhood. What's bad for America is bad for Americans, period.
Folks, I love this country, but let's be real. Who here watching actually trusts the federal government? Not me. A good case study we can look at is in Minneapolis, where ICE agents use flock competitor Vigilant Solutions for the stated mission of tracking illegal immigrants. Over the course of their operation, ICE agents disregarded the rights of citizens so many times that even the Twin Cities police chief acknowledged that ICE personally violated the rights of hundreds of his citizens and even some of his own off-duty officers.
Recently, as the last 2 weeks, we, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations.
And folks, I know this firsthand. I have a family member in Minneapolis that got boxed in while trying to make a deposit at the bank for the suspected crime of looking a little tan. And I personally talked to 2 Target employees who are American citizens that got pulled off the job, beaten, detained, and kicked out of an ICE vehicle.
I'm literally a U.S. citizen.
And State Representative
That's
Michael Howard says he's
so
spoken
insane.
to them, and they've both since been released.
No, I'm not okay. Bro,
My kids are obsessed with this skylight calendar, and so am I. It really does make it easy for the kids to keep track of their chores and routines.
I always know what day soccer practice is.
And folks, the point is this. This is not a debate about whether you agree with ICE using aggressive methods to round up illegal immigrants. The bigger picture is knowing that the federal government is able to use any excuse they want, hiding under the guise of public safety, to fiercely crack down on whomever they choose. Today, the target is illegal immigrants. Tomorrow, the target could be you.
The next guy we're gonna meet is Ben Jordan. I think he has done the best journalistic work on flock cameras. Very interesting guy. Excited for you to meet him. Cool spot, huh?
I'm Ben Jordan. I've been a musician my whole life. I'm a researcher. I have a YouTube channel that usually does science education, some journalism. Recently, the surveillance and privacy stuff has kind of blown up, and I've weirdly been at the center of it. So,
what do you make of flock safety?
I view it a little bit less nefariously than some people do. Like, I think it's just people wanting to make a lot of money. It's Mark Andreessen, who he's the person who has invested the most money in flock safety.
Mark Andreessen, whose venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz is Flock's biggest institutional investor, was just appointed by the Pentagon to their Defense Policy Board. So for the people wondering about Flock's proximity to federal power, their eyebrows can only raise after news like this.
Mark Andreessen has been involved in the Cambridge Analytica scandal. He's been fined. I mean, like, he has this long laundry list of privacy violations and making money off of people's data. And then I see the rest of it just like your standard move fast and break things tech company. They're just trying to grow as fast as they can so they could reach an IPO. When it comes to like security vulnerabilities, when it comes to legal vulnerabilities, I believe that they're just trying to kick that can down the road until they launch an IPO, and then it could be deducted from people's 401k when they have to pay fines on it, or when they have to take down 100,000 cameras because of security vulnerabilities.
Would you argue that flock cameras do make cities safer?
No, but I also wouldn't argue that they don't. My only argument that they wouldn't make cities safer is because you're taking money from things like community policing and putting them into a third-party tech company and paying $200,000 for a drone that costs $15,000.
To understand how law enforcement actually views flock, we spoke to 3 different perspectives: an Indiana police chief, a Wisconsin sheriff, and a veteran officer in Georgia.
Currently, we have 850 cameras in our city, and what it's utilized for is to monitor business districts, residential areas, hotspots, and our city parks.
To have 850 cameras running in this town of 26,000, what is the annual budget to keep that going?
Well, they last pretty long, don't get me wrong, but when it's time to replace them is when it gets expensive. Right now, my budget for technology as a whole, I probably spend just close to $600,000 a year. That would be the equivalent of 6 officer salaries. But the job that it's doing is doing the job of probably 15, 20 officers.
Could you say without a doubt this technology makes your city safer?
Without a doubt, it makes it safer. I wouldn't know what to do without it.
So working with Flock, what was your experience like with them?
Our experience working with Flock has been fantastic. We use them to really help and provide us a lot of coverage in the rural parts of Dane County. We are responsible for about 1,000 square miles of patrol area, including 41 square miles of waterways here in Dane County out of the 1,200. So the use of the technology was fantastic because it allowed us to be in places that we couldn't be. So overall, they helped us solve numerous crimes, including homicides, but also they helped us find individuals that were missing. So it played a significant role in allowing us to keep and maintain the peace in the rural parts of our community, which is typically very different than in the urban parts of a county. It did not gather any sort of driver information, race, gender, or anything to that extent.
Like, let's say if you have a missing person and they're like an elderly person with dementia and they're in danger of dying because they're dehydrated and they're driving around not knowing that they're fucking dehydrated, then it can help for stuff like that. Or if someone kidnaps a child.
So what are we looking at here?
This is just one of the Flock cameras. Can I ask you how you got your hands on that, or is that classified? eBay. eBay? Yep. Okay. And tell me what goes through your mind when you look at this piece of technology.
I get kind of frustrated because they're very expensive and it costs tax money, and just the fact that it's tracking everyone everywhere you go, regardless of if you're on a list of like wanted people.
So you have to be in a funnel for most license plate readers, but for Flock, it's everyone.
Yes, and it's nationally shared across like pretty much every police department.
And another thing to add on to what he was saying is there's something called Flock Nova, which uses something called OSINT, or Open Source Intelligence, which is your Strava bike rides, your searches that are public, your Google, all of your data that's online gets combined with your police record and with your social security number and with your address and all that stuff. And then with your location everywhere you've been, as you go from like license plate detection to porn site search super fast. To me, it's clearly a Fourth Amendment violation.
I noticed that Flock was actually pretty big on privacy. Do you think that's a bit of a hypocritical stance?
Yeah, of course. When initially looking into the company, it just randomly, I noticed that the CEO bought his house through a trust so he could hide his address from the public. The new office address that I got, that I found for you, it's not listed publicly online. And like when you told me that, I just knew to look for realty trusts. So it was like, oh, okay, a realty, they probably got this through a realty trust so they could make sure that nobody knows where their office is. You have this $7 billion company and you don't want people to know where your office is located, like you're that private. Like I don't have the option to leave my driveway and go to Chick-fil-A without them knowing where I am, but I can't know where their office is. You have some cities where crime has increased after Flock came around, and you have some cities where it's
such
decreased.
a Fourth Amendment violation.
There's not been an actual
that's so
good
unhinged.
peer-reviewed study on if license plate readers are effective or not nationwide.
How accurate are these license
I'd be interested if someone leaks it, because like
they're pretty accurate.
What do you say?
They have to have
this
mail
citizen
coming
that
in
say,
somewhere.
I don't want this in my city. It's an invasion of privacy. I don't like this.
We're not here to watch you. You do have an expectation of privacy inside your residence. But this is no different than people with Ring cameras and cell phones. Once you step outside your house, that expectation of privacy is gone.
They sort of act like they weren't able to catch criminals before that. Like they didn't have, like they weren't able to call another police department and say, hey, we have a red sedan being driven by somebody who looks like this with this license plate number, watch out for it, and then be able to find it. Or as if traffic cameras hadn't existed before Flock safety, or as if ALPRs haven't existed before Flock safety. I often want to tell police, like, give yourself a little more credit. Like, don't let this multi-billion-dollar company take credit for your hard work. Like, you're the one solving the crime. I could push a button on some of these cameras and log into it and delete and change and modify data. They can't be used in court because of that, because nobody can prove that they're secure. I hate surveillance cameras. I don't like. I just don't like them in general, and I have them all over this property because the cops have showed up here and because we have private investigators. And it sucks that I have to invest in this stuff that I hate, so I can at least have my own side of the story in case a cop comes here and says that I assaulted them or something. Probably because the CEO of this company is telling people that I'm a violent, lawless activist.
And then unfortunately there's terroristic organizations like DFLOC, whose primary motivation is chaos. They are closer to Antifa than they are anything else. And that I think is unfortunate because we don't want chaos, or I don't want chaos. I like law and order.
And so it's like, the whole thing is just a huge infringement on people's rights. I mean, when I first got my hands on one of these, I was amazed by how shitty they were. It saves data every time it detects motion, and then it has both a Wi-Fi and an LTE radio inside, and then it uploads images and data from that, from what it detects. This costs $3,500 a year.
Each camera that's up is $3,500.
$3,500 for this. Yeah, I mean, this is the cheapest one. This is the cheapest one you could have. Yeah. So if you have like 10 in your city, that's $35,000 a year.
I'm Isaac. I'm just a student, and my school pretty much picked up, I think, 48 of these over the course of the last 2 years. But I noticed on campus there were a bunch of these little devices with a Flock logo. It turned out that they were microphones. I looked into them, and I found a press release from Flock where they explicitly stated that they were only gunshot detectors and they would delete anything outside of a gunshot. I think about 2 months after I started looking into it, though, they sent a software update over the air. So now all of these microphones that are spread all over my college campus, they are just actively listening for voices now, which is very uncomfortable, and I'm not particularly happy about that.
This is a multi-use parking lot, but there's a high probability that some of these people are Flock employees. We saw people going across the bridge.
I gotta play more safe. I'm the only one that does damage.
So we're going to surveil the entire parking lot and run it through a license plate reader technology and see if there's any people we should keep an eye on. And so what can we use these license plates? Like, can we track people? Can we know where they live?
So there's this Park Mobile, if you're familiar with it, if you've ever used it. Park Mobile had like a massive data breach, and all the license plates were pinned to everybody's like credit card information. And so you could actually just like take this data, which from this program I made, you could just like download a CSV if you wanted to. You could take this data and then run it past the Park Mobile data breach and see who all these people are, where they live, what their credit card number is.
It feels pretty invasive.
Generally, the reason I even make this stuff is to show people what a black hat hacker could do.
So the viewer understands we're going to go about a 2-mile loop from your house.
Yeah, we'll go like maybe 3 miles total. In this one, clearly, you can just walk up to it and press the button if you wanted to. The laws that require that mailbox to be put in concrete, or like that stop sign to have so much, it has to go down in the ground so much, and there's usually concrete or gravel under there. And this thing, they just plop into the ground without paying any attention to the roadside safety.
Okay, so this is the first one close to your house, and now the journey continues. After seeing over a dozen cameras within a short distance from Ben's house, it became clear he couldn't even go get gas or take a shit without being surveilled. After realizing this uncomfortable reality, we next went to uncover Flock's secret drone facility, where we soon discovered something strange.
Whoa. Yeah, I guess this is the drone facility.
Again, no company logo. This looks like an Amazon distribution center.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure this isn't a construction company that we're at. I'm pretty sure this is a fucking...
This is all like shadow names, or?
Yeah, OES equipment. I mean, as far as I know, we're on public property right now, so.
This is the most heavily guarded construction company.
Shit. That's a new one. This must be a prototype.
We're surveilling Flock right now.
The dentist-approved way to clean your retainer at home. If you wear a retainer every night, we know how hard it is.
I heard that is Dennis. My first thought went to
How's it going, man?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, we just brought our own Flock camera to the situation. Are you a Flock guy? Okay. Wow, you got some cool cameras over here too. Oh, it's okay. I'm just gonna get your license plate if that's all right. You're under surveillance, sir. Sir? Sir, you're under surveillance.
It's so funny to chase him down like that.
Okay? Oh yeah, we're just surveilling the scene. Just for safety reasons.
What are you doing running around in the street?
None of your business, except for I'm surveilling you right now.
It's not very safe to run. There's a lot of trucks that come up and down here. We had a truck that come down today and he was going quite fast. So just, this is a dead spot as you can see, so just be careful.
Thank you. Are you with Flock?
What?
Are you with Flock?
No, there's a construction firm I work with, CSB.
Oh, he's doing the back maneuver.
All the Flock cameras
on his trunk that says...
Oh, what the?
This man, James Boyce, is a former British Army veteran and a current Flock supply chain manager. Not only did he lie about working for Flock, which I'm guessing is probably normal at this company, but he also implied to Georgia law enforcement that I could have been armed, and we'll soon see if that puts my life in danger.
They're a very secretive company for a company that doesn't want your secrecy to be preserved. Nondescript building, no signage. We'll track some of these license plates to make sure there's nothing nefarious happening around here. And if they're against that, then they're a left-wing activist. I'm trying to talk to Flock.
You guys gotta go. This is private property. You're not allowed here. I'm sorry. Is that if that's one of ours, we'll take it back.
No. This is we got it from eBay.
Oh, okay. Well,
We were trying to talk to Flock guys.
I can't help you there.
Okay, well, you're under surveillance right now. I just hope you know. It's for safety reasons. You're being watched. It's kind of nuts, isn't it? Have a good day, sir. So it appears this entire building is under kind of a front company within Flock. And I would guess a lot of their company is structured like that. It's umbrella companies, LLC, C Corps that own this, that are connected to that. And it's clever arrangement, and they're well within their right to do that. But again, it speaks to the hypocrisy of the whole story of they want to be private. It appears this entire company is under their construction organization. So they have some umbrellas going on, some LLCs, some maneuvering of the corporate structure.
You don't want to be like open with the public. You want privacy.
Because the truth should not be afraid to speak. Anytime there's an element of hiding, it makes you wonder why. And it's a classic example of do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. So there is like a good argument to this. Like if you get a job at Flock Safety for whatever reason, like there's a pretty big chance that you got that job because you worked for a police department or because you worked for a city council, and now, you know, you may have some conflict of interest in taking this job. Nobody takes this job without knowing what the company does, without knowing how controversial it is.
Bloody hell, James called the cops on us, and here's what he said.
Hi, good morning, Mum. I'm
Okay, what's going on there, sir?
yeah, I'm sorry for calling. We've had some incidences today. I work for a company called Flock Safety, this is our main distribution centre, and we've had a string of like YouTubing streamers or stalkers or whatever you want to call it. They've gone to our headquarter office and other facilities, and now they've turned up here. They're trying to either gain access to the site, and we don't want them on site, and they've been driving around the perimeter, basically harassing everyone who works here, and I don't know if they're armed or not.
Okay. You're in Roxy, okay?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Oh, are they blocking us all in now?
Is that a security guy?
I don't know.
Hey, you guys move up so he can get out, okay? Sorry, man, we're getting in a little predicament here. We're the guys to talk to.
Are y'all in this car too?
He's just trying to get out of here right now. No. Have you guys heard of Flock, the Flock Safety Company? Yeah, of course. They're the ones that have the cameras everywhere in your. Yeah. Okay, so this is their undercover headquarters right here with their drones, and we did surveillance on them. So we filmed them and said, "How do you guys like it?" And now they have the cops here. What do you guys think about Flock cameras in your city?
Honestly, I don't appreciate those. I'm not gonna lie. I don't appreciate the drones coming into my neighborhood. It's just not a good feeling, honestly, to see those drones flying around everywhere. It's like, it's kind of weird to me. I don't know.
Let me tell you this, because you guys are working hard in a home improvement company. Your tax dollars go to your local city where they spend money on cameras, whether you like it or not. And you're literally paying for the cameras that are watching you as you drive around town.
Yeah, and we have no say-so when it comes to that either, you know? They just do that on their own. So I feel like it's kind of fucked up, you know?
Any updates so far to what's going on here?
Yeah, Uber Eats is here.
I mean, can we at least let the people go in and out? Like, this is the thing with public safety. That's the police, in order to make things safe, they're blocking off the entire roadway so we can't get out, as if we look like a flight risk. And now it's putting the public at risk where she has to stop her car over here.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's done anything wrong here. Like, you're literally doing journalism. Everybody here just literally came, like, they essentially came to give me a ride back. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we're not on their property.
Sir, he's got to go. We all have things to do today. He's blockading us, dude.
Yeah, okay. Now it's something else. Because I ain't got shit to do with this, but now I'm trying to leave. I got out the car because you're blocking me. Sir, you don't got to disrespect me right now.
Sir, are we free to leave?
No, I can't leave.
Sir, are we being detained?
Is this the only exit?
Yes.
I wanted to see if this absolute numbnuts of an officer from Smyrna Police Department violated my rights, so I ran the scenario by my friend Officer Toombs from the Clayton County Sheriff's Office.
You can tell us to go fly a kite and walk right off.
And if I ask you, hey, am I getting detained, you have to give me a yes or no answer?
Absolutely.
You guys have done nothing wrong. Actually, we've also done nothing wrong, and yet we're blockaded by a police officer. Are we being detained?
The manager wants to speak.
It's a yes or no question, sir.
You're gonna wait here until the manager talks to you.
You're holding me until that guy talks, but you're not telling me if I'm going to be detained. Yeah, you are. Am I allowed to leave? Can I go in my car and leave? They are with Flock Safety. They just confirmed.
How you doing?
Hey,
I'm good.
what's up, brother?
What?
Hi, how you doing, sir?
Flashed it? Question mark?
So, tell him what you need to tell him.
So,
That
gentlemen,
was wild.
I just want to be very clear. There's a multi-tenant site here with a lot of people that are just trying to work. I've got yourself and everyone running in the street. I had to put my brakes on just to stop to make sure you're okay.
Are you safe right now, sir?
Well, I don't know that, do I? So I just want to make sure. We've had reports that you've been to basically every flock safety site and facility that you know of. And
Correct.
Yeah. So
Your surveillance is correct. We're doing our own surveillance.
so people don't really feel safe right now with people randomly trying to get into our sites and buildings.
Oh, wait, you don't feel safe being surveilled. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all, sir.
Because that's what you guys do to us without our consent.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting when you guys have this happen, you call the police and make us get stopped. But then you do it and it's okay?
I mean, our devices will call the police regard. What we'd like you to do is, basically we're saying that you're trespassing on this site and we'd like you to leave peacefully.
This guy's blocking us that you called.
Physically leave.
All of us.
This is my office that I work at Midtown Home Improvement.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to let us
Can
leave?
I not physically leave my place of employment?
Officer Smith.
I'm speaking because I have something to say, sir, and you are blocking me.
What we're asking is, you're essentially trespassing on this site at the moment. There's a lot of people that don't know your intent. I don't know if you're armed.
I don't know if you're armed.
Okay, that's fine. But
I mean, it's the same playing field, Buck.
and essentially not really bother us anymore today. And that would-
Was it bothering you to film you guys?
I'm not bothered by filming. I'm being bothered by trying to go on a lunch break and people are running around in the street.
Was it such a disservice to your day that you felt the need to call the police for it?
I think if you had someone hanging around outside your house, you'd probably do the same thing.
This is a business that happens to put cameras around the nation, and some people don't like it, and we want to do our due diligence. By the way, we have put in a request to your press team to actually speak to you face to face and have a fair interview, and we haven't gotten back from that, so we did our own digging ourselves.
Go through those channels. I'm pretty sure Flock will obviously talk to you about what they need to, and hopefully clear up anything they do.
After Flock called the police and had us detained, I immediately filed a public records request for the police reports and body cam footage. In Georgia, by law, a city or police department has 3 days to respond to a FOIA request. I didn't even get an acknowledgement response for 10 days. I then followed their instructions confirming the request on their own portal, and a week later they rejected it, claiming that it was canceled due to no response. So I want the citizens of Smyrna, Georgia to understand that if this nonsense continues, then their property taxes will be paying my legal fees and any fines when I sue the city for the records that they're obligated by law to provide me.
Folks, it was important to me to try and get Flock involved in this story. Ben tried reaching out to them about their security flaws. I tried reaching out to their PR team, and here's how that conversation went.
So when you were there last week, what was your goal? To try to talk to someone at Flock, or just to get B-roll footage, or what was the goal?
Just before we go any further, I guess, is there any potential in doing an interview with Garrett or walking one of the headquarters, whether it's the drone facility?
Well, I want to suss out where you're coming from with this. My question for you is, if this is like a, let me get Garrett in a weird position and ask a bunch of Ben Jordan to ask questions, I'm not sure that that's a really good use of his time. So I just am curious, are you coming in it through like a fair lens? Or are you coming through it, are you coming at this from like the sensationalist YouTuber lens?
I think what people are afraid of is the potential for a mass surveillance state. Once it's in place and the scope keeps creeping, or a national emergency comes in, then all of a sudden the rules change, and something that's we were told came into our communities for one reason is now used for a much more draconian reason. And I think that's the other thing that people would be afraid of.
Logistically, how would this work? Garrett is in Atlanta most of the time. He has like no availability over the next couple of weeks or months. So you can also understand that I'm coming from a position where I have to protect Garrett and Flock.
For sure.
And a lot of people request to do interviews and to look at things, and then the story comes out and it's really shitty. I don't love that you guys trespassed on Friday and that Ben was there as well. I just don't love that. It it sends a weird message because I'm putting faith. If I tell you we're going to work together, I've never worked with you. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, never worked with you. I'm going to kind of put my trust in you. And I just know right now that you guys trespassed on our property.
Yeah.
And it felt invasive.
But Momo, does that prove my point of it feels invasive? That's what that's the point I'm trying to make exactly.
I understand. You're saying it feels invasive that you guys were on our property. But flock cameras being on public roads, taking pictures of public license plates, which is the point of a license plate, I don't believe that what a flock camera is invasive. I got kind of freaked out at the beginning, which you're like, this is what it's like to feel your privacy invaded. This is how people feel about flock. And I'm like, I understand that's how people feel, but that's not what flock is. And so if you're open to debunking that with me in a fair way,
Sure.
I don't want your segment to be like flock wouldn't participate because we have nothing to hide.
But folks, Flock did hide, and they sent me an email saying they were not going to participate, and it made me ask, do you guys get the impression that they are a transparent company, and do you feel comfortable about them putting cameras in over 6,000 cities around the country? And folks, for reference, months ago, Ben Jordan tried to discreetly tell Flock about security vulnerabilities he saw to help them fix it, and this is how they responded.
So to give you a comparison of how security vulnerability reporting usually works, when I found a mild encryption vulnerability in Ring cameras or vulnerabilities in surveillance robots, the companies immediately reached out to me and offered to pay me to help them document and mitigate the problems. I know of 3 separate security researchers who reached out to Flock Safety about vulnerabilities and were immediately given a non-disclosure agreement. This happened with John Gaines, and the irony is, if they acted ethically and transparently with John, then the vulnerabilities probably would have been fixed before I even started making the video.
And then this is, I guess this is the incestual relationship between Flock and police departments, where now all of a sudden journalists looking into Flock, this is their hidden drone headquarters that we're looking at. We were at their other hidden locations earlier this morning, and we're probably on the list now, right?
I just need to leave.
Brother, you called the people that are blocking us in. Do you see how that's counterintuitive? Taxpayer funded, by the way. This is pretty great. Alrighty, so we got 1 cop, 2 cop, and then we got the Flock employee who doesn't like being filmed himself that called the police for us filming him. So make it make sense. I appreciate Ben for joining me. Ben is a YouTuber that I've watched to learn and inform myself on this issue. Highly recommend you check his channel out. The link is in the description. And keep learning, keep reading.
A top secret joint mission between the CIA and Mexican military that the public was never supposed to know about was just dragged into the light. It's April 19th, 2026. 4 Americans are driving through the Mexican border state of Chihuahua. They're in a convoy of blacked out vehicles, and they're dressed in disguise, wearing uniforms from Mexico's state investigative agency. But they're actually CIA officers trying to blend in. According to a report from the LA Times and Washington Post, the mission had been planned for weeks. Their objective is to raid 6 drug labs that are part of a larger network producing meth and fentanyl. But the operation is about to take a deadly turn. And now it's raising much bigger questions about if the United States is waging a covert war across Latin America. The target is geolocated to here, and the location sits hundreds of miles deep inside Mexico, buried in the mountains of the Sierra Madre. From here, those drugs then move north into Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. This region is the heart of what's known as the Golden Triangle, a remote, rugged zone that's been a cartel stronghold for decades. Since the 1960s, it served as a hub for narcotics production and trafficking. 75% of illicit substances trafficked into the United States comes from here. It's the most dangerous operating environment in the country. As the team moves into their target, US-operated MQ-9 Reaper drones circle overhead, providing surveillance. The drones give them the go-ahead to attack now. They flip down their nods, night vision goggles, they breach the doors with explosives. Cartel members are taken into custody. Inside, agents find fully operational meth and fentanyl labs. They destroy them on site. In a series of strikes on this night, they shut down a key node in the cross-border drug pipeline, creating disruptions that ripple across the entire trafficking network. which matters now more than ever because currently the cartels are on the back foot for the first time in decades. They're weaker than they've been in years because in a string of similar joint US-Mexican operations, they killed Jalisco New Generation cartel boss El Mencho, and then days later, a lot of people didn't see this, but senior figures inside the Sinaloa cartel are eliminated by Mexican forces, but it barely makes headlines. What's left is the cartel command is now starting to fracture. Rival factions are turning against each other. A civil war is exploding between the cartels over who will be left standing. But not every joint mission goes off without any errors like those, because the 4 American operatives on this mission and the Mexican troops load back up into their vehicles and they begin exfiltrating back from the objective. But this is where everything goes wrong. According to the official story, as the convoy moves along these poorly maintained mountain roads, the lead vehicle loses control and skids off the road and tumbles down into a ravine. All 4 occupants are killed in the crash. The vehicle explodes into fire. 2 CIA officers are dead, along with the senior Mexican state agency director. But at the scene, something doesn't add up. Local police and Mexican media notice inconsistencies almost immediately. As they begin identifying the victims, they realize there are Americans embedded among the Mexican troops.
Leaders in Mexico are demanding answers after 2 CIA employees were killed in a car crash following a drug lab raid.
The story breaks fast and spirals into an international incident. Chihuahua Special Prosecutor Wendy Paulo Chavez confirms that the 2 Americans were dressed as civilians with their faces covered mostly, and they were carrying no weapons or identification. Did the Mexican government really know about this mission or not? Was it really an accidental crash or was something more sinister happening here? The official story of what happened to the 2 CIA officers has shifted multiple times. There are contradictory accounts from officials in both countries. First, U.S. Ambassador Ron Johnson, a former CIA officer himself, tries to tell a new story that the CIA officers were just visiting the embassy staff along for some joint training, helping out with drone training. But that cover story proves to be too flimsy. Neither journalists nor the Mexican government appear to buy it. The first clue that they weren't embassy staff was that they'd entered the country on a tourist visa with no work authorization. The other American operative used a diplomatic passport, but his records didn't match up with anything that the Mexican government had on file. Insider sources later revealed to the LA Times that this was actually the 3rd occasion where the CIA joined in raids in the Mexican state of Chihuahua. Officials scrambled to change their story again. Speaking to News Nation, former Navy SEAL and FBI Special Agent John Gilliam revealed that the agency has used stories of car accidents before in the past to cover up combat deaths of officers in the field that were sensitive. This is usually only done in extremely sensitive diplomatic situations. The inconsistent stories made people believe that the American operatives may have actually been killed during the raid itself, or the cartel ambushed the convoy as it drove through the mountains. The agency has a wall of unnamed stars at their headquarters listing all the people who have died in service of the country on classified missions that cannot publicly be announced. In fact, Title 50 missions, which this almost certainly was, covert action is defined as activities where it is intended that the role of the United States government will not be apparent or acknowledged publicly. It's unclear how many Mexican troops were on the raid that were even aware of the secret U.S. presence. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum stated, quote, "Evidently the military didn't know that there were people participating who weren't Mexican citizens, that there were foreigners participating in the operation," end quote. According to public statements by Sheinbaum, the CIA officers were not authorized to operate in Mexican territory. Mexican law and U.S. official policy prohibit CIA operations in our southern neighbor without the express permission of the government. If President Sheinbaum really had no knowledge of the mission, then the statement carries an alarming implication that the intelligence operatives may have actually been operating under a secret agreement with the Chihuahua state government. This is in direct violation of the Mexican Constitution. It was not an operation that the security cabinet was aware of, were not informed. It was a decision by the Chihuahua government. To understand how that's even possible, this mission, you have to look at one unit that the public only recently found out about last year, named GAIN. According to reports from Reuters, the CIA helped stand up GAIN in the 1990s as what is called a vetted unit. This means every member is polygraphed, closely monitored, and effectively hand-picked to work alongside U.S. intelligence. Former leader of the outfit, Roberto Oliveira, describes it as a hunter-killer team, built to track and dismantle cartel networks using U.S.-provided intelligence and tech. This created the playbook for how these joint missions operated. Former CIA narcotics chief Jack Devine said the decision was made to create units where we're really going to give them state-of-the-art technical equipment and we're really going to give them state-of-the-art intelligence collection capabilities. The agency even reportedly flew out Mexican officers to America to receive training in espionage. Specialists designed prosthetic mustaches, wigs, and fake scars for the Mexican soldiers to use as undercover disguises. Today, there are at least 2 CIA-vetted military units operating in Mexico. This kind of cooperation has happened in the shadows for years. U.S. intelligence has operated in Mexico, but always under lock and key. Clandestine forces inside of Mexico have been kept on a leash, because under agreements like the Bicentennial Framework, Mexican authorities greenlight all of these targets, Mexican forces make the arrests, and the U.S. stays in a supporting role. That's been the deal. But this mission that we just saw doesn't quite fit that pattern. This is the first real concrete evidence revealing the level of involvement in these raids. High-level officials are already starting to resign over it. The Mexican government's conflicting accounts also raise the possibility of something deeper. And this is what I think really happened. Duncan Wood from the Wilson Center believes President Sheinbaum's statements are directed more towards a domestic audience. Quote, any Mexican leader is naturally going to express concern and also surprise when U.S. operatives are discovered in Mexico, even though the fact is that this happens all the time. And the reason why they expressed concern and surprise is because of the deeply held nationalist feelings in Mexico, as you would find in many countries, about operatives being active there. Operations like this happen in secret for a reason. It's for the safety of the U.S. agents and also to preserve the integrity of the Mexican leadership. If the public learned that their leaders tolerated American intelligence officers rooting around in their country doing God knows what, it could fracture the foundation of public trust and destabilize the country. Reuters journalists Drazen Gorgic and Laura Gotzender detailed in full how the partnership works in a kind of look-the-other-way, hush-hush open secret between the two nations. So President Sheinbaum herself is in a tough spot, trying to simultaneously balance her nation's sovereignty and national spirit against immense pressure from the United States and her own people to crack down on the drug cartels, or risk direct military action on Mexican soil with or without their approval. An indication this is what really happened is how quickly all of this has been swept under the rug and how muted the response has been. Both countries appear to want to put this to rest quickly. Normally, it's DEA and FBI agents on the ground in Mexico, not CIA officers, and even then, only in training, support roles, rather than taking part in any assault teams. The agency is usually most comfortable working behind the scenes. It's in the U.S. strategic interest for a strong Mexican government to take the lead on actual groundwork. So how is the cooperation working? Mexico's state of Chihuahua actually has the highest level of joint operations between the United States and Mexico. Jorge Armendariz, the spokesman for the State Public Security Secretariat, said that 18 analysts from the United States agencies, including the DEA and FBI, will now be stationed at a new intelligence center in the city of Juarez, just 10 miles south of El Paso, Texas. This year, they just opened in April what's called the Binational Intelligence Bunker. Bi-intelligence goes both ways of the border. They're opening a giant Sauron Eye-style 20-floor building that has a massive command center for monitoring the cartel called the Sentinel Platform, based on the surveillance technology from Palantir and what they do in America. It's a state-of-the-art nerve center for all public safety operations that cost over $80 million. It brings together thousands of cameras, license plate readers, drones, helicopters, public panic buttons, all into one system. It's crazy how analysts use it. They use an iPad to just touch the screen and choose any camera or source that they want to monitor live. The surveillance state that we have here in America is now being exported south. It's like something out of what a 1990s TV show thought command rooms should look like in a police department. The bunker has 150 analysts who coordinate these investigations. Mexican officials say that the partnership helps stop human trafficking as well. If the CIA is embedded with these teams, though, fighting the cartel, what else are they getting themselves into? Reuters reported that inside the agency, headquartered in Langley, Virginia, they are moving resources and personnel to amp up counter-cartel efforts. They created the new Americas and Counter-Narcotics Mission Center, where they got $200 million in funding boost per year. Some of the best officers and top counterterrorism officials have reportedly been reassigned to work on the Mexican cartels, according to 3 intelligence sources who spoke to Reuters. We've since learned how deeply involved they were in the operation to kill El Mencho in February. The CIA supplied intelligence that got him as wild. It started by tracking an OnlyFans model who El Mencho was communicating with. According to Intelligence Online, they exploited the metadata that was associated with the young lady's profile. Investigators were able to identify a device indirectly linked to a remote and isolated property in the Mexican state of Jalisco. Then an American analyst team located in Arizona, just 15 miles from the border in Mexico, got to work. This place is home to NetCom and Army Intelligence Center. It's where Digital Targeting Center is located, run by Colonel Dana Riley. Every day they wake up and their job is to find people and have them killed. Intelligence Online sources revealed that 2 special MQ-9 Reapers were then deployed. Using a SOAR, which is Scalable Open Architecture Reconnaissance Pod, on its wings, they scan for electromagnetic emissions. It intercepts low-power communications like phones, looked through cartel burner phones, and isolated El Mencho by finding who he was talking to, this OnlyFans chick. The agency's Special Activities Center was involved on the ground raid as well, and they helped track his movements and provided the much-needed intelligence on El Mencho's compound, but it was still Mexican forces that did the door kicking. The April 19th raid was the most active role that we've seen the CIA take yet, and it indicates possibly a more intrusive level of U.S. involvement in kinetic operations. Speaking about the crash, Mexican Security Secretary Omar Harfuch characterized the relationship with the CIA, saying, quote, "Going to support any operation is different from actually being part of the planning of the operation. Agents have never been in the field with us." End quote. Mexican authorities in the past have been concerned about going directly after the drug lords. They feared the power vacuum would only fuel further violence and encourage more radical newcomers to fill the void left at the top. It's easier to attack an enemy with friends though, and the entire region is now shifting how they deal with cartel violence. If we zoom out, we notice a larger trend happening across Latin America now. Just weeks before this raid, leaders from across the Western Hemisphere met in Washington, D.C. for what was called the Americas Security Summit. This has been pushed heavily by the new Trump administration. A day after the meeting, Colombian President Petro ordered a strike against narco-terrorists in his country, eliminating 7 members of the cartel. The trend continues in Bolivia, where their president, Rodrigo Paz, announced the country has welcomed back the American DEA after 17 years ago when the country's former president kicked the DEA out, accusing them of spying and supporting opposing groups. Seeing the DEA invited back to Bolivia is a huge change. They're now resuming intelligence sharing, officer training, and operational coordination with drug trafficking. But nowhere is this more apparent than in Ecuador, where U.S. Special Forces have continued to go on joint missions with Ecuador's forces targeting the cartels. U.S. military deployed a group of U.S. Air Force personnel to the Ecuadorian military base in Manta beginning in December. The walls are closing in now on the cartel leadership across Latin America. Ecuadorian forces captured the country's 2 most powerful cartel bosses last year. The head of Los Chernos was found in a bunker in his mansion near the...
Get the new Kia Carnival with 0 down. Get the 2026
coastal part of the country. He was then extradited to the United States. A few months later, the head of Los Lobos was captured in Spain. He tried to face change Max by going through several surgeries to change his appearance, but billions of dollars worth of CIA biometric face tracking was better than that. The focus throughout Latin America is on transnational criminal organizations. What was once a law enforcement problem for the whole entire region is now a national security threat. For years, cartels were treated as criminal networks. Now they're being discussed in the same category as insurgent groups. That opens the door to this completely different set of tools like these CIA paramilitary teams. When the operation against Venezuela happened, the CIA deployed in Colombia for cross-border missions. This increase is happening now all over Latin America. This must be like operational whiplash for the CIA though, going from selling coke to now destroying it. You can already see the effects. Mexico has deployed 200,000 military personnel internally for security operations, one of the largest domestic military deployments in the world. Countries like Colombia and Brazil are increasing defense budgets specifically tied to internal security and border control. Even smaller nations in Central America are expanding special operations and intelligence units focused on organized crime. U.S. Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel is mapping cartel networks using counterterrorism methods. They operate kind of like JSOC, Special Forces, but under a different name across the border, bringing the find, fix, and finish mission with them. The news of alleged drug boats being blown up across Latin America's waters is out of the front pages right now, but in April, that was actually the most strikes against alleged narco-trafficker boats in a single month. And that's where this operation fits in. The line between advising and participating for US forces is slowly disappearing, and that's what this tragic incident represents. The next phase of cooperation. And that's how you end up with American paramilitary officers deep inside the mountains of Chihuahua. The only question is, how many more missions have happened like this that we don't know about?
When you think of Iran, you probably think of this.
At least 65 people have been killed in demonstrations that began in Tehran almost 2 weeks ago.
Some 60 Americans, bound and blindfolded, are now beginning their 6th day of captivity inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran.
So far, more than 3,000 people have been killed, according to the World Health Organization.
Today, our perception of Iran is dominated by the regime that has controlled it for almost 15 years. But I want to show you a different Iran. The Iran that existed long before this regime. I want to show you what led up to it. Because understanding that Iran is key to understanding how we got this brutal religious regime and how it has survived for so long. You might think that the story of modern Iran is going to be about religion. But in fact, the story I'm about to tell you is about power and fear. Because for most of its history, Iran was a superpower, an advanced civilization ruling over huge swaths of land that today we call the Middle East and Central Asia.
They have been culturally, militarily, politically at the center of things for a very long time.
Oh, and this was starting like over 2,000 years ago. But empires rise and fall, and this empire eventually was in decline, which gets us to our story, which starts here.
Every part of my day essentially revolves around the way QuickBooks Online Advanced works. It helps me understand my business's overall health by giving me that information, providing me with an updated profit and loss statement every day, providing me with the information in real time at my fingertips whenever I need it, whether it's in my office or on the go. As a business owner, you always want to know where the money is, where the money's going, where the money came from. QuickBooks Online Advanced has helped us streamline that entire process, really paints me a clear picture on what direction the business is moving, and therefore allows me to make educated decisions on how to take those next steps with the business. QuickBooks Online Advanced takes all of the financial needs, wants, and desires of my business and puts them in one spot. With Advanced, I'm able to focus on where the business is going next and what steps we need to take to get there.
This moment, the year 1800, Iran is ruled by a family dynasty called the Qajars, and they find themselves in between two big empires, both of them expanding pretty quickly. If you look at these empires' old maps, you'll see that both of them called this place Persia. That's what outsiders called Iran. The Russian Empire had been fighting to get access to this land between these two seas Seas that, by the way, are usable during winter, unlike Russia's other ports in the north. They're gonna have to control this land if they want to control Central Asia. Russia easily defeats Iran in a few wars, and they take the land and get access to the seas. And in doing so, Russia makes Iran sign some treaties that gives Russia exclusive military control in the Caspian Sea.
See with eyes unclouded.
The treaty also says that Russian merchants can do what they want. They don't have to comply with Iranian law. It was a lot. Oh wait, and I almost forgot, if this wasn't enough, Iran has to pay Russia back for the war. So it's still the early 1800s, and Russia has just leveled up its strategic position in Central Asia, not just by conquering this land, but by solidifying major leverage within Iran. Now, over here, the British are watching. They're watching closely, and they're getting nervous. Russia now has access to these seas, and it has leverage within Iran that means easier access to this Gulf, the Persian Gulf that leads to the rest of the world. Even worse, this land east of Iran is strategic high ground. They call it the key to India, meaning if Russia got access here, it would threaten the British Empire's most valuable colony. Iran might take this over and give Russia access. This would be a nightmare for Britain. A British general calls Russia a, quote, disagreeable and even dangerous neighbor. So the British Empire jumps into a competition for influence in this region that would come to be known as the Great Game. They fight several wars with Iran to stop them from getting the key to India. And this is where you start to see a really important pattern that we need to pay attention to. It's the reason I'm making this video. It's the thing that explains the modern day Iran and its conflict with its neighbors. The British openly say that, quote, we do not want to occupy Iran, but we cannot see it occupied by our foes, aka Russia. Iran is too big and mountainous to actually conquer. They just need to control it from the outside. Meanwhile, the king of Iran is struggling. He needs money to run his country, so he sees an opportunity to play these two competing empires off each other by selling them different forms of influence inside Iran, like the exclusive right to control key industries inside the country, basically monopolies in exchange for cash. These are called economic concessions, and they give the empires influence in Iran without having to invade, all while making money in the process. Let me just tell you something really quick. The US and Iran signed a ceasefire agreement last month. But a ceasefire doesn't necessarily bring certainty. And the issue for most of us back home is that this is a story that's so complex, and the effort required to understand it can feel overwhelming or impossible. Is it a good deal? Is it a bad deal? What does it even include? Every outlet seems to cover it differently. They have a different take, a different takeaway. And if you really want to figure out what's going on, it could take hours of work. That's why I'm a big fan and have partnered for years with today's sponsor, who is Ground News. Their mission is to help you understand the news, to make it easier to decode and demystify what's actually going on. They are an app and a website that pulls from thousands of articles and organizes them by story, and then provides insights into things like political bias, reliability, who owns the outlet that's reporting on this stuff, even specific differences in the reporting itself. They've been recognized by the Nobel Peace Center for advancing media literacy. So let me show you how this works using that US-Iran ceasefire story. You can see here on Ground News that the story was covered by over 650 outlets. Ground News lets me filter by ownership, factuality, location, so that I can see the full context and angles on these stories before I decide what to think. They have this bias comparison. It's a feature that lets me see specific differences in the reporting itself. For example, left-leaning outlets are highly critical of the Iran deal. And then you can quickly see that right-leaning outlets use much more positive language, calling this deal, quote, a historic peace deal. Every outlet chooses their narrative.
Worth it.
And they use language and facts that reflect that narrative. What Ground News does is it just makes that all visible to you very quickly and easily. I've been using their app for years because it actually gives me full transparency into the barrage of news that we all face every day. It's something I can't get anywhere else. and it allows me to be a more critical thinker. It's completely funded by all of us subscribers, so there's no corporate influences deciding what you see. You can get in on the Vantage plan, which is the one that I use, and you can get 40% off if you use the link in my description. It's ground.news/Johnny Harris, or you can just scan the QR code here on screen. Thanks, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video. So over the next few decades, British and Russian engineers, bankers, merchants, and soldiers flood into Iran. They're exploiting natural resources, making money off everything from railroads to dams to bridges to factories. They're collecting tolls on customs and taxes. They're running lucrative banks. They build some infrastructure, but much of the benefit flows outward.
Cut through the clutter and stand out on the #1 platform people use to make informed purchase decisions. Tap into new audiences that aren't tapped out and that can't be found anywhere else. Reach them today with Reddit ads.
Britain builds this telegraph line across the country, but it's run by British subjects, and it's a game changer for Britain. Messages that once took months and traveled to India in minutes. And the Iranian king is making money for the country, but he's using a good amount of it for his personal lifestyle. By the way, I'm gonna start using the Farsi word for king to describe this leader. The word is Shah, and even though this guy's basically a king, he is a king within the particular political context of Iran. It's the same reason we use like Tsar to talk about Russian kings, or Sultan to talk about an Ottoman king, or Pharaoh in ancient Egypt, or Emperor in China. You get the point. So the king going forward is the Shah. Okay, so the Shah is selling all of these industries and monopolies to both empires. And then in 1890, the Shah sells Britain a total monopoly on tobacco for 50 years. Tobacco is a major part of daily social life in the country, but now everything has to go through a British middleman. This really hits a nerve. The people are starting to become fed up with outsiders controlling their country. So they band together and protest. And it works. The Shah cancels the tobacco agreement with Britain. Iranians are starting to realize that mobilizing together can bring about change. They rise up again in 1905, demanding a constitution. They want to put limits on the king's power. They want to create a parliament. They want to have representation. And they want to limit all these secret deals that the Shah has been making, selling off their country to foreigners. This is among the first constitutional revolutions in the Middle East, and it's looking like it's working. It's the early 1900s, and Iran has a parliament. The Shah is letting this happen, but very soon after, he dies. And the next guy, his son,
very
hates
balanced.
the parliament, doesn't like how it's limiting his power. You know who else hates all of this democracy? The empires. Especially Russia, whose influence in Iran the new parliament wants to diminish. So Russia sends in 12,000 troops to support the Shah. They show up to the parliament with a bunch of cannons and they open fire on the parliament building. They kill hundreds of lawmakers and constitutional revolutionaries. They arrest many surviving revolutionaries. Others are executed. The Shah is killing his own people with the help of outsiders. And unfortunately, this is something we will see again. But the Iranians striving for democracy fight on, and they gain back some power in the country. It's the early 1900s, and this pattern that we've seen for 100 years continues. The struggle for influence in strategically located Iran. Germany enters the scene, and Russia and Britain realize that they need to team up to keep German influence out. So instead of fighting each other, they divide Iran into spheres of influence and promise not to cross into each other's area. Of course, Iranians had no say over these lines of influence. And then, a year after the empires slice up the country into spheres of influence, there's a discovery that will make Iran even more valuable to control. Oil. Lots of oil. Now, the Shah had sold the rights to explore for oil to a wealthy Englishman in 1901. And after 6 years of searching, he finally found it. Now, the British Navy would be switching from powering its ships with coal to oil. So look what happened here. Iran went from being a buffer zone that protected British trade routes and their vital colony to holding the key to Britain's naval dominance, which is their global dominance. Britain is not leaving Iran anytime soon. They would go on to establish a company we know today as British Petroleum, or BP. And of course, they send troops to protect this vital resource. Right in time for a war to break out in Europe. When World War I begins, Iran declares neutrality. They want no part in this fight, but the fight comes to them anyway. Iran is too strategically important, especially with all this oil. The war ravages Iran's economy, and at least 2 million Iranians die from food shortages and disease caused by the war. Once again, Iranians are paying the price while the empires fight to protect their wealth and influence. After the First World War, Russia is going through a communist revolution, turning into the USSR or Soviet Union, and they leave Iran. But they're just next door. They could come back at any time. But for now, it's just the British Empire, who wants to increase their influence here even more due to the vast oil reserves they're discovering. Oil had been a game changer in World War I. It's one of the reasons the British won, and Germany, who didn't have access to nearly as much oil, lost. Oil is a strategic weapon. They can't leave Iran. But Iranians are fed up with what has been over 100 years of foreigners running their country from the outside. So this military man rises up. He works with the parliament to throw out the old Shah and promises to make Iran great again, trying to get the people to remember that this was a superpower. They need to restore that greatness. His name was Reza Shah. At a time of rising nationalism everywhere, Reza Shah emphasizes Persian identity and greatness, reminding people that the majority of Iranians speak Farsi, not Arabic like much of the Middle East. And this Shah says that Iran was great before the Arabs brought Islam to Iran, so he wants to reduce the influence of religion in the society. He wants to make the secular state the only political and legal power.
Martin Luther said, "I want to make Moses so German that no one would suspect he was a Jew." Now that can sound controversial.
I say this with all candor, like, we absolutely screwed up the comms of the Epstein files, like we just did. But do I think the reason we screwed up the comms is because we were trying to hide something? No. I think the reason we screwed up the comms of the Epstein files is one, you know, Pam Bondi said, the client list is on my desk, right?
Well, they had binders. They were
100% right.
Front.
But those binders were largely documents that had already been released, right? So here's, let me try to
what was the
defend.
purpose of that performative display of the Epstein files? And she was saying there's tens of thousands of hours of film.
I don't know what the purpose of it was, but I know that the effect of it was to make people mistrust the entire effort.
All right, so we have J.D. Vance on Joe Rogan's podcast promoting a book, but really he's using this to try to set himself up to run in 2028. So he needs to distance himself from the Epstein files fiasco and the Iran war disaster, while also appeasing Trump and his base, which is nearly impossible. He's just getting roasted by both the neocon MAGA crowd and the anti-Israel America First crowd, like Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Nick Fuentes fans. Like, most of the top comments are about Peter Thiel, Palantir, and JD being compromised. And people like Ben Shapiro don't like JD either because he thinks he blames Israel too much, and he tries to pander to conspiracy theorists and Tucker Carlson fans and Democrats, apparently. People are even calling him a Nick Fuentes supporter now, even though Nick and his fans hate him. So it seems like he's only losing people here. Like, Dave Smith called this the worst case scenario for JD because the war hawks are mad at him, but also he's still doing a half-assed defense of the war. So he's gonna have a lot of trouble separating himself from that and Peter Thiel and the Epstein class, especially based on the comments on YouTube and Twitter. And if he can't manage to do that, I don't think he has a chance in 2028. But he seems to be leaning more towards Tucker Carlson's side because Tucker helped him get his VP position and they're good friends. And Tucker's kind of under the Thiel umbrella. So I think the plan is to get Tucker out ahead of the Iran war and anti-Israel sentiment growing. so then he can use his credibility to back JD, because JD is definitely going in that direction, but he has to walk a fine line right now because he still has to support Trump's decisions and placate the pro-Israel faction, which he's having a lot of trouble doing. Like with this podcast, he just ended up upsetting everybody. Like the Ben Shapiro Fox News demographic think he's trying to undermine the president because he's too soft on Iran and wants to have peace talks with them. He also blames Israel for sabotaging any kind of diplomacy with Iran.
And, you know, there's this Time article that came out yesterday. A friend sent it to me. It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country, saying that we should not be negotiating with Iran, we should just keep the military campaign going indefinitely, and that is their explicit position.
Ugh.
And coming after me saying that, you know, people have come after me and say that I'm influenced by Qatar, that I'm influenced by foreign governments, that, you know, I take my marching orders from Tucker Carlson, and there's just so much bullshit out there when what I'm actually trying to do is accomplish what the President of the United States told me to accomplish, which is a settlement of this that accomplishes our objectives. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. We have the free flow of oil and gas. And like, I should be clear, you know, I don't actually mind. I don't mind. Foreign governments try to influence the United States all the time. You know, Israel does it. Other countries do it. It's just sort of the nature of the beast. What bothers me is actually when Americans allow, meaning American leadership, allows that influence to affect their judgment and to affect what they are advocating for. That's what really bothers me. People are always going to try to influence the United States of America, whether they're allies of ours or whether they're enemies of ours. Again, when I open up the pages of Time magazine and I see that there's a literal foreign influence campaign being funded to tank the very deal that I was pursuing, and oh, by the way, many of the people who were receiving that money were actually attacking me in completely dishonest ways, you know, my response to that is, well, go to hell. I'm going to do what I have to do for the American people. I represent Americans first, and that's the way that I've tried to do this job.
But then whenever he's asked if he agrees with the war, he says he backs Trump's decisions and Iran can't have a nuke. So he can't go all the way, but I'm sure when he runs in 2028, he'll claim he's always against the war, and that's why he's being attacked for it. So it might make it easier for him if all the war hawks turn on him, because people look at that like he must be doing something right. I mean, to prove he's a reasonable moderate on Israel, he says he's been called an anti-Semite, which at this point is like a badge of honor. So I think he mentions this to be like, see, I'm not on Israel's side, I'm America first, and I'm being called an anti-Semite for it. But people aren't buying it. They feel like this is forced. And I think even Rogan kind of believes that too, because he questions JD twice about what he said to be called that, and JD doesn't really have a response. So I think, honestly, he might be saying this as a tactic to try to convince people that he's really America first.
And you know, Joe, the crazy thing is, I'm like, people don't realize this. I'm actually in this, you know, there's this massive pro-Israel, anti-Israel debate in the United States of America. I'm like the reasonable moderate. And I think that's what so many people don't realize is, you know, I've been accused of being an anti-Semite. I've been accused
for
of,
what reason?
Quite literally for, I've been accused of trying to, I guess, some people say that I've insulted the Jewish religion, which is insane. Like I have a ton of respect for the Jewish religion. I mean, if you talk about...
What specifically did you say?
I don't know. I've never heard a good, compelling argument for why I'm an anti-Semite, even though I've been accused of being an anti-Semite by many people. But what I say to these guys is, look at public opinion. Right now, Israel is losing the public opinion battle in the United States of America. It is a simple and obvious fact. Donald Trump has said that publicly. It's a simple and obvious fact.
Why do you think that is?
Well, let me finish this point.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my attitude towards this is Israel is an ally. Like France or like the United Kingdom, we're going to have disagreements with them. We're going to have agreements with them. There are areas where we're going to have similar interests and areas where our interests are going to diverge.
And he says Israel's an ally, which I don't think the America First crowd likes to hear. And I think even Tucker Carlson doesn't think they should be an ally. Then also, after JD gets done complaining about Israel sabotaging any kind of peace talks, Rogan starts pressing him on Israel's influence on American politics. And JD, after complaining about their influence, now tries to downplay it and is like, well, a bunch of countries influence us. That's just how it works. He also says Americans should be upset with leaders who are affected by Israel's influence, which, I mean, Donald Trump, I think, definitely is, and most of the people in his administration. So I guess JD thinks we should be upset with them.
Why is Israel losing American public opinion?
Well, the narrative is that Israel has a very disproportionate effect on American politics.
Yeah, I see that. I see that narrative. I mean, I actually think that they... Look, do they try to influence American politics? Yes. But like I said earlier, a lot of other countries do. I think
to the extent that Israel does,
I think some are better at it than others. I think the Israelis are definitely more effective at it than most, but I wouldn't say that they're
especially for a country of like 8 million or whatever the fuck.
To influence American politics.
Yeah, but it's more than that. The concern is that they're spying on American politicians. That there's concerns about funding. There's concerns about influence. There's concerns about whether or not politicians are, whether they're aligned with.
You're literally 1v3 back there and struggling. What?
Well, there's certainly, like, I definitely get those concerns, but my sense is that the way that all foreign influence works in the United States is people try to manipulate American public opinion, and then from manipulating a public opinion, they try to get the outcomes that they want. I mean, this thing is a very good example of this, that there have been people within the Israeli government who are trying to, like, actually shift us away from that policy because they want to continue the military campaign. And by the way, like, there are people within their government that I love, I have good relationships with, but I guess what I would say to the Americans who sort of see this and are frustrated by it, my attitude would be, you should be frustrated at American leaders who are, you know, persuaded by this, affected by this. Countries are going to do what countries do. I really don't. It doesn't bother me that Qatar tries to influence the United States of America, and they do. I like a lot of the Qataris, just like I like a lot of the Israelis. It doesn't bother me that Israel tries to do this. It frankly doesn't even bother me that Russia or some of these other countries do it. It's just the nature of being a political leader in 2026.
And whenever it seems like he's breaking with Trump, then he has to go back to defending his decisions. Like, you could tell he definitely wants to separate himself from this stuff, but obviously he's the vice president, so he can't. But he's trying to set things up so in 2028 he can convince people he was always against the war, and he'll probably blame Israel for it. But right now he still has to back Trump and can't go too hard on Israel. So he's in a really tough position, and Rogan's questions here are making it difficult for him to blame Israel when he runs in 2028, because Rogan gets him to say that going to war with Iran was totally Trump's decision. Israel didn't influence him to do it at all.
You think that Israel is affecting American political judgment?
I mean, I certainly think that there are a lot of talking points and there are a lot of arguments that make their way into American political discourse. Do I think that it's been dispositive on any particular issue? Like, I think that's a much more difficult question.
Do you think that we would have started this war in Iran without the influence of Israel?
I think the president, completely separate from any influence from Israel, believes very strongly, and again, I agree with this, that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon.
Right,
and I
but
think he was
after
willing
we
to do things.
bombed them in June, right? That was the initial attack, right?
June of last year.
Yeah.
Midnight Hammer, yeah.
Right. Do you think he would have continued with the most recent campaign if it wasn't for the influence of Israel?
Yes, I do.
Really?
I do, yeah. Look, I mean, I think...
So this discussion about the Iran war went pretty badly for him, and then right after this, they get into the Epstein files, which of course goes even worse. JD brings up how people think Trump was blackmailed by Israel to go to war with Iran, which he says is completely ridiculous, but also he believes the Epstein file conspiracy theories and alludes to Epstein working for Mossad and there being a blackmail operation. So again, like with the Iran war, he has to walk this tightrope where he appeases the anti-Israel conspiratorial crowd, but also he has to act like Trump's administration isn't affected by Israeli influence at all, and he doesn't understand why people would believe that. It's also hilarious because he's an Epstein conspiracy theorist, but he helped cover up the files and he knows a ton of people in there, which of course now he claims they just screwed up the release. Like they have nothing to hide. They wanted to put him out, but Pam Bondi just botched the release. So I think Pam Bondi is like the sacrificial lamb. JD blames her for it. MAGA absolutely hated her and she got fired. So I think they're trying to pin it on her now.
What I think a lot of people, I've heard this argument, is this idea that Donald Trump, was sort of, I've even heard people say he was blackmailed into this by the Israelis. That's not true, dude. It's just not true. I've seen the decision making up close. Again, whether you agree or disagree with our negotiation, or whether you agree or disagree with the decision to launch the campaign Epic Fury to begin with, the idea that Donald Trump is being blackmailed is crazy to me. Because again, I see the way that he makes decisions. I see the way that he processes this stuff. Like the idea that he picks up the phone with anybody and says, hey, I'm going to take orders from you. No, that's just not how Donald Trump operates.
Can you understand, though, why people would come to that conclusion, especially because of the Epstein files?
What do you mean?
Well, the Epstein files were supposed to be released, and there was a tremendous amount of resistance to those files being released. And that concerned a lot of people. Because if you're talking about very wealthy, powerful people that were engaged in crimes.
I see. So you're basically saying, the fear is that whatever's in the Epstein files was used to blackmail, the administration into doing the Iran thing.
Or at the very least, the people that were involved in the Epstein files that didn't want them coming out had undue influence.
Well, again, say this with all candor, we absolutely screwed up the comms of the Epstein files, we just did. But do I think the reason we screwed up the comms is because we were trying to hide something? No. I think the reason we screwed up the comms of the Epstein files is one, Pam Bondi said, the client list is on my desk. Let me try to.
Well, what was
the
purpose of that performative display of the Epstein files? And she was saying there's tens of thousands of hours of film.
I think Pam was trying to respond to the political moment. I think she overstated what we had and what we didn't have. And I think that she, got roasted for it publicly by a lot of people, including me. You and I have talked about this a lot. I'm one of the OG Epstein conspiracy theorists. I've probably gone down every single rabbit hole. We could go down most of them today.
So he tries to explain to us how the Trump administration had nothing to hide with the Epstein files, and we can trust him because he claims to be an expert on Epstein conspiracy theories. That's how he gives himself credibility, which, I guess he did try to cover him up. He has access to all the files, and he knows a ton of people who were close to Epstein, who he works with every day. So he should know a lot about him, but of course, what the hell is he going to tell us? Him and Rogan are in way too deep, and they're just being used to do damage control over it. So it's hilarious because they try to talk about this like they're just two random guys on the internet discussing it, they aren't associated with a ton of people in the files. On one hand, they admit Epstein ran a child trafficking ring for the elites, and there's definitely more to the story than we know. But yet, they know a bunch of those elites, and they just ignore or defend their connections to Epstein. JD claims he's gone down every rabbit hole. So I wonder what he thinks of Howard Lutnick going to the island and lying about it, and Trump keeping him around as Secretary of Commerce. Or what he thinks of the letter that Trump wrote to Epstein, that bizarre birthday letter. Or Peter Thiel's connection to Epstein. Of course, Rogan would never ask any of those questions. Also, JD used to say stuff like, remember when we learned our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal child trafficking ring? Then the guy died mysteriously in jail, and now we just don't talk about it. But it's dude, you're connected to those powerful people. So he kind of set himself up here. If him and the people around Trump and MAGA didn't hype up the Epstein file theories, it honestly probably wouldn't have been a problem for them, because the left didn't really care about it until they realized it was a problem for Trump. So MAGA shot themselves in the foot by making this a big deal. And JD still talks about it being a blackmail operation and there being more to the story. But, he's just the vice president, so he doesn't actually know anything. He acts like, I love looking into this stuff, but I don't know anything you guys don't. Sometimes he talks like he's just some guy on the internet doing research about Epstein, and he's not the vice president of the United States.
The problem is, if you go back to the original investigation, it was designed in a way that was way too narrow. If there was a broader conspiracy, And you know my view is that there probably was. The evidence that existed in 2007, that was the opportunity to get
So
it.
when you say there probably was a broader conspiracy, what exactly are you saying?
I think there are a few different options. I mean, look, man, I like you and I could literally do 2 episodes about this. I've gone on down to every rabbit hole. There's this funny New York Times story that's somewhat true, somewhat false, but where Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, says, well, we know JD's a conspiracy theorist on this. Like I am, actually. I've gone down every rabbit hole here. Look, so there's the theory that whether it was American intel or foreign intel, that Epstein was sort of using sort of the sex ring to blackmail rich and powerful people.
It was clear that he was trying to get people to get together on the island and meet at parties. So there was something he was doing where he was trying to either influence people or compromise people.
Right.
So it's not, there's some sort of an operation that was going on.
There is a story there, and, you know, I will go to my deathbed believing there's a story there, but I can't prove it. And I promise you there's not some document that at least I'm hiding that allows us to prove exactly what was going on.
So it's just frustrating listening to these two talk about this and act like, yeah, we're into these conspiracy theories. We're really trying to get to the bottom of things here. It's like, why don't you ask Donald Trump, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, or Howard Lutnick? Like, JD knows people that have been to the island. So what does he think of Howard Lutnick? Is he a pedophile? Is he being blackmailed? But of course, Rogan and JD don't actually care about any of this, and they're basically part of the Epstein machine. Like, Epstein and Peter Thiel were pretty close and in business together, and Epstein encouraged Thiel's journey into politics, which JD Vance is a product of Thiel. So I don't think there's any chance he can separate himself from Thiel and Epstein. I mean, just look at the comments for this episode. But he's trying to give himself credibility by saying he's a conspiracy theorist and he knows there's more to the story. And he thinks Epstein was part of Israeli intelligence. You know, that's like throwing a bone to the conspiracy theory crowd.
Well, most people think he was Mossad.
Yeah, Mossad or CIA or some other deep state, whether in America or Israel or another country. Or both. You know, look, he clearly had connections to the highest levels of American intelligence. He clearly had connections to the highest levels of Israeli intelligence. In fact, and the Epstein thing is interesting because as much as I know, you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu,
How did he chomp again?
not a
That's so
particularly
insane.
popular person in the United States of America right now, Epstein seemed to be connected to the elements of the Israeli deep state that were left of center. Like, I've always found that fascinating. It wasn't like he was super connected to the right of center of Israeli politics.
And I wonder why he'd make that distinction. You know, probably so he could admit Epstein was involved with Israel, but not Netanyahu and the Likud party. So people don't think Trump is being blackmailed by them. Also, during this, Rogan mentioned how one of his former guests